Good morning, 5:10, or afternoon, depending on when you're watching this, or maybe even evening. It's a little gloomy and rainy outside today, so I'm not going to be going outside, so we're going to do another read aloud from inside today. For those following along with their books, I'm on page 79. Our next chapter is called Fries, and some vocabulary, only one vocabulary word that you will hear today is the word weary. So if you have access to a computer or something to write down that word and look up the definition, you will hear it soon. Let's get started. Again, I'm on page 79. We sit at one of the long tables. Nearby are two students from my class, Jamie, the boy from Guatemala, and Nishan, the girl from Ethiopia. Hey, Jamie says. Hey, I say back, but I can't talk anymore because my mouth is already full of new tastes. Excuse me, I say, when I have swallowed at last. But what is this amazing food? I hold up a brown stick. Fry, Hannah says, one of the 5 major food groups. This fry, it grows in your America ground? I ask. Hannah laughs. A sound like bells on a windy day. I suppose you could say that. You're Keck, right? I know because I asked your cousin. Hannah passes me a paper cup filled with strange and beautiful red food. Ketchup, she says. You dip your fries in it. I do as she says and then eat. You're a fine cook, I say. Hannah and Jamie and Nishan laugh. I feel glad I found enough words to make people happy. When a friend laughs, it's always a good surprise. Next chapter is called Not Knowing on page 81. I see your cousin at the apartment sometimes, Hannah says. He's a very quiet guy. I have to think for a moment. To eat such happy food and to think about words at the same time is much work. Ganwar, I say, has many worries. He seems kind of sad, Hannah says. I look at the fry in my hand with its shiny coat of red. I want only to eat and not to remember, but Hannah's words tug like tight rope on a calf's neck. We're going to pause here because it's your first stop and jot. It says, what does the phrase Hannah's words tug like tight rope on a calf's neck suggest about what Hannah is saying? How is Keck interrupting Hannah? How is Keck, interpreting what Hannah is saying? So think about what Hannah just said. Think about that expression. It's a pretty bold expression. You usually don't talk about something and say it's tugging like a rope on a calf's neck. That's a lot. It feels like a very heavy sentence. So how is Keck interpreting what she's saying? Is it something he's taking lightly? Is he thinking deeply about it? Hannah laughs, a sound like bells on a windy day. I suppose you could say that. You're Keck, right? I know because I asked your cousin. Hannah passes me a paper cup filled with strange and beautiful red food. Ketchup, she says. You dip your fries in it. Oh, I'm sorry. I went back a page instead of forward a page. Sorry about that. Let me reread the last paragraph so I don't mess that up. I look at the fry in my hand and its shiny red coat. I want only to eat and not to remember, but Hannah's words tug like a tight rope on a calf's neck. Now we had our stop and jot, and we're going to keep going. Ganwar lost his father and his sisters when the fight came. When the fighting came, I tell her. Hannah nods. Her eyes are blue and gray and maybe green. I can't be sure. I remember a kind doctor at the camp with such eyes. How did he lose his hand? Hannah asks with a gentle voice. I don't know the words for this. Some English words I hope I never learn. Men come with guns and knives to our village, I answer at last. To be in such fighting, says Nishan, is very bad. And what about your family? Jamie asks. I stop eating and I take a breath. My father and my brother Lowell, they were killed by the government men. I saw it. I pause as a memory pokes at me like a knife in my back. I was lucky to see, I add. Lucky? Hannah asks. Her voice says she doesn't understand. Nishan looks at me with eyes that know of such things. Maybe Keck means lucky to know for sure, she explains. Not knowing, it's the hardest. Yeah, I agree. The hardest. How about your mom? Hannah asks softly. Guilt grabs my throat. I will not go to that black place today. I try again. She'll come, I say. I'll wait for her here. I'll wait here for her, excuse me. Waiting is hard too, Hannah says. I can see that she also knows sad places. I put my tray away. I'm not so hungry anymore. So your next stop in Jot is right here. And what type of emotions do you think this conversation is bringing up for Keck, and why? This is a pretty intense conversation to be having over lunch. He's just getting to know all these people. What kind of emotions do you think he's going through, and why do you think that? So put an emotion in your document and then write why. And you can even do more than one. The next chapter is called Home on page 85. I take the school bus home. It's a long yellow car filled with screaming, laughing students and many paper balls wet with spit. I don't think it would be easy to drive such a car.